next to me. Common love isn't for us. We created something phenomenal. Don't you agree? Don't you agree?
People in Power. Inspiring artists, empowering stories, your favorite films and stars up close and very personal. With your host, Ghada Aboud.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of People in Power. This is your host Ghada Aboud. Please call me G, and director Abdullah Al-Kaid. Hey everyone, how are you feeling? And hope everything is going great on your side. And today we have a very special exclusive. We're gonna be interviewing author, best-selling novelist, Mr. Osamah Al Muslim. He topped the best-selling charts since 2015 with 17 best-selling novel. There's a drama project coming up, and also another book for him coming up that's expected to also be a bestseller. Today on People in Power, we interview Mr. Osamah Al Muslim very exclusively. Alright everyone, just get your questions ready and call us on 012-648-4691, 012-647-4100 as we interview Mr. Osamah Al Muslim, best-selling novelist and author. Alright everyone, and we are back with People in Power. This is your host Ghada Aboud. Please call me G, and director Abdullah Al-Kaid. And as promised, a very exclusive interview with a very much admired and loved author, the best-selling author, Mr. Osamah Al Muslim, on air with us. Hello?
Hello.
Hi, hello, Mr. Osamah. Thank you very much for joining us on People in Power.
Thank you for having me.
First of all, can we say happy birthday?
Yeah, thank you.
How do you usually spend? What's your ritual on your birthday? How do you spend it?
Well, I have no ritual. This birthday, I spend it working, actually.
Working. You have many deadlines coming up.
Yeah.
I want to ask you a question. You turned 44, right?
45.
45.
I'm born 1977.
MashaAllah, 44. You look great.
Thank you.
And does it... for a writer, usually this job comes with a lot of solitude, right? And
yeah.
It comes with a lot of self-reflections every day. How has it changed from 2015, your birthday, this day? How do you reflect on your journey since you were a child and until now with all that success?
Well, writing was always for me a passion more than work. I've been writing since a young age, and never was about publishing, actually. I published late,
Yeah.
as you said and mentioned, in the 2015. But I really discovered a lot of things during my publishing years, that reading is still alive, despite what a lot of people saying about reading, that's gone, it's not there. Young people are not reading anymore. As a lover of reading myself, I thought that was not true. I tried to prove that if you write something good enough, people will pick up a book and read, especially in the novel genre. We are still lacking. We are still behind, especially in the fantasy genre. It's untapped in the Arab world, especially here in Saudi. The fantasy genre was almost untouched. There are, of course, a lot of authors before me that wrote in that genre, but they have never gave it what it deserved of world building and character development. It was still young, still is, but we are trying our best to.
You're doing a great job. Actually, it's with pure jealousy, if I may say, that you raise the standards of communicating and being very much favored by a lot of readers and getting your word through. You have a movie coming up, right?
No, actually, it's a series.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which book? For what book?
Well, I cannot announce now, but it will be announced soon. We are in the late stages.
Did you sign?
Yeah, we're going to start shooting very soon.
Okay.
The script have been written.
Who wrote the script? Are you the one who presented the script or not?
Not to get into much details, but I was a big part in writing the script, because we had to, change a few things, build new storylines, but in the same theme of the original story. I'm very pleased with the writer. He's non-Saudi, but he was very brilliant. We were actually, this was in development for 2 years. Corona came, delayed it a bit, but we continued, and we built the 10-episode season 1, and hopefully it will be worth the time.
Is it one of the books about history, related to history, or is it about? I'm trying to work it through.
I'm not gonna fall on that request,
okay.
But soon, maybe within less than a month, we will announce it.
Okay. Is it with one of the TV, the original Saudi TV platforms?
Yeah, that's a big name.
Can I say the name?
Let's keep it.
Okay. You will not fall for any questions.
No.
Okay.
Trust me. Believe me, I want to say it more than you, but we have to keep it until it's officially announced.
Your books is always focused on heritage.
Yeah.
Actually, a cultural heritage. Actually, you introduce a lot of people, and I'm one of them. I learned a lot about our culture from your writing.
Yeah.
Details like being generous with your guests for 3 days and then burying them on the 3rd day, right? That was al-arja.
Yeah.
How was working with someone who's non-Saudi? How was it? Did you feel that the identity was kept? How did you communicate with him? That very the sensitivity of your platform.
Right. You mean the writer of the script?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, actually, he was very intrigued about reading about our culture, pre-Islamic culture in the peninsula. And look, we have a rich culture. It's very interesting. We don't need to look far away for interesting subjects to write about. It's always been fantasy originated in my, as a lover of history, I know that for a fact that fantasy originated from the East.
Yes.
1001 Nights, a lot of books came from it, but we kind of lagged behind and we didn't pick it up. So, yeah, he was very interested, a good reader, a good researcher. We were a team, and he was very open-minded, and he loved the story. That's important if you want to write a good script.
Yes.
You don't treat it as work as much as something you love. And thankfully, he loved the story.
Amazing. You're launching another book also. There will be a launching event in Riyadh.
Yes, next week, inshallah, on the 12th of May. This is an exclusive for you. I haven't announced it yet.
Amazing,
But,
yes.
Yeah, it will be, inshallah, in Riyadh, in one of Jarir's branch in Rubin Plaza.
In?
Rubin Plaza.
Okay.
Yeah, and going to be the sixth and the final installment of Basatin Arabistan.
Amazing.
Yeah, just received the pictures today from the printer. It's a big book. Biggest book yet, 650 pages.
Oh, wow. How much time did it take you writing it?
Oh, it was a bumpy road because of, because of the series, actually, because I had to be part of the writing team. But
Yes.
yeah, I was able to complete it in time because writing, sometimes you need some kind of atmosphere and isolation to write
True.
a good story. You don't have to force it.
Yes.
But alhamdulillah, it was done on time.
How do you feel that you're closing the chapter of Basatin Arabistan?
Well, to me, it's not closed, but we had to end it at some point. I believe that there is no such thing as an ending for any story. It's just a pause.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's hopefully people will be satisfied. Not all will be satisfied with any ending. Impossible. But yeah.
So it's the launching. The launching will be on the 12th of March in Riyadh, Rubin Mall.
Rubin Plaza, Jarir branch.
Okay. What time?
8 p.m.
8 p.m. How do you feel when you meet your fans and your readers?
It's like charging an empty phone. Sometimes you get drained.
Yeah.
But the fans, the love of the fans, the comments that I receive every day from all my social media accounts. But when is very empowering to me, and it gives me. I don't need a reason to write, but sometimes you need a reason to continue.
True.
Writing to me will never stop, but publishing is a hassle, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
It's almost like a business. I'm not a businessman, but when you meet the fans, when they ask you, when they almost beg you to come up with a new or a second book or when is the next book, you feel sometimes responsible to not to fail them, and especially at young ages when they read, and I feel pleased when I see that.
True. This is amazing. Let's go dive more into your universes. Your novels are about. You speak about parallel.
Paranormal.
Yes, paranormal worlds. There are mermaids. There are fighters who lived in pre-Islam. You speak about a lot of different intangible universes that we cannot meet, and you describe it really well. Where do you stand from these worlds and these creatures that you have become somewhat their voice?
Well,
are you saying embracing them, or are you warning people from them? It's very hard to decide when we're reading for you. I am.
It's just saying that don't dismiss anything. It doesn't mean that we can't see them, that they don't exist. I'm not saying they exist. I cannot, take responsibility of such statement, but keep an open mind. The general message here is keep an open mind. Don't dismiss anything. Always be accepting of the unknown. that doesn't mean you should believe it 100%. But there are people who believe. There are people who had different experiences. So when you see someone believing in something, that belief has a basis. It doesn't come from emptiness. He's not stupid. He's not mad. There are bases for believing or for beliefs. Sometimes we write about these things in a way that makes them silly or laughable. I don't, because honestly, I believe that this world is big. We have not tapped every part of it. Especially if you spoke about mermaids, the sea is a large part. I think sea exploration is much more or less than space exploration. We don't know anything about the deeps.
True.
And just recently, I think, in the news, they have, announced or discovered that they had a mermaid or something.
Yeah, a small mermaid. It's 17 inches, yeah.
Yeah, so we don't know, actually. So I'm trying to just slightly,
Mr. Osama, I want to ask you a question. Sometimes, I'm thinking aloud with you. It's a reflection from what you wrote. Sometimes when we go to parallel, when we look for different universes or different creatures, it means that maybe somewhat we do not feel fulfilled or satisfied within the communication that we have within our surrounding environment.
Yeah, true. It's an escape.
It's an escape. Is this what you faced?
The word you're looking for is dimensions more than world.
Yeah.
No, everyone needs to escape. It doesn't mean that you are not satisfied or fulfilled with your own life. But escape, give us a rest. That's why I write my bios. I'm writing portals to other worlds. That doesn't mean we don't like our own, but it's like traveling, When you travel to a different country, that doesn't mean you don't like your own country. Just changing location, changing space is good for your mental health and physical health. That applies also for changing your or escaping your whole dimension by your mind. The mind is a powerful tool to use to live in almost a spiritual feeling when it's like dreaming, When you dream, maybe a nightmare, maybe a beautiful dream. At least we have a choice with books.
Do you believe these different dimensions, the creatures who live there in these dimensions, would like to communicate with our world? Are they trying to communicate? Mermaids, for example. Do they want to be discovered?
You're talking as if they are true, right?
Yeah, you make them feel true.
Well, it goes the same with us. Do you want to communicate with them? If I ask you personally. Okay,
reading this is what happened with me. I think at Al-Dawa'ir Al-Khams, also there was a mention of mermaids. But you make them feel, you make them look very much different than the version we knew through Disney. They're different. They're scary. They hate people who invade their privacies.
Yeah.
And so it depends. Are they, in your perspective, mermaids, for example, or these creatures they don't want to be...
In general, any creature fears the unknown. As we fear them, they fear us. As they have predatorial habits, we do. So humans are not angelic as we may perceive them. We are also beasts in our own perspective. So it's a clash of you can treat them as different cultures, different entities, but in the end, if we are going to assume that these creatures exist, I don't think they are very eager to meet us.
They're not very eager to meet us.
Yeah.
Okay. We're gonna...
hypothetically speaking.
I believe so too, to be honest. Before going to your speaking about the 5 circles or the دوائر الخمس, I think you mentioned that you avoid speaking about the 3 taboos, which is politics.
As much as I can, yeah.
Yeah, politics, religion, and affairs. But you see that you somehow, through your novels, you kind of hint, hint around them somehow, and you, how do you keep that balance? You keep true to your line of paranormal genre, but at the same time, it's very realistic, hinting at these. How do you resist? Also, it's very seductive to write about these 3 taboos.
Yeah.
How do you resist that?
I always keep in mind that these things may spoil a good book or a good story, because it's like when you cook a dish. Sometimes you are tempted to increase the salt or the spices, but if you go overboard, you will spoil the whole dish. You can add a little bit just to get some taste, but don't make it your main concern, because then you will spoil everything. A good story usually don't need such
themes.
Condiments. If I may say. I believe a good story can stand by its own if you write it well. Usually, I'm not going to talk about other authors. I don't have that right, but I believe that if you go far in one of those 3 taboos, that's an indication that you are lacking in building a good story. Yeah, that's my own opinion, of course.
All right. Let's stay with الدوائر الخمس. You say in the intro, you say if you try to search for the truth about others, you will stumble upon your own truth, and I advise you to stop looking. Through your writing, and it's a very reflective job. What's so horrifying about human nature that you find the most?
Everything. Selfishness, dabbling in other affairs, neglecting your own.
Okay.
We always persuade that people are good by nature. Yeah, maybe, but...
Do you believe that people could be evil by nature?
I believe that people are the result of their own environment and situations, and if you look around, there is not a lot of good to be affected by. I'm not, being unoptimistic or, but...
No.
Just look around you, It's good to have a good attitude towards life, but sometimes we lose caution doing that.
Yeah.
So be careful out there. Humans are more dangerous than the entities I write about.
Yeah. I think this is one of the main messages I believe you're getting through your writing. There is nothing, at least the evil is very obvious with the other creatures. But
people always ask me, what's the most horrifying creature you ever wrote about?
Yeah.
I always tell them humans.
Yeah, they are. Because their intentions are not clear, unlike the other creatures, right?
And they're doing.
Yeah. And let's go to, this is what happened with me. This is a story of a radio host who interviews people who had paranormal experiences.
Yes.
How did this book do in terms of sales in comparison with like Al-Arja, Basatin Arabistan, Lodj, Khof?
As the standalone, of course, the radio host was introduced in 2016 in the Sahab al-Khasif series.
Yes.
He had his own chapter in that book. He has a very big fan base dedicated to him. So I decided to give him his own novel.
Yeah.
And it was perceived very, very well. I think it's one of my highest rated novels on Goodreads.
I have to tell you, it's perfect. It's just amazing.
I know it touched home with you.
Very much.
Yeah, and it's hard to draw that character as a radio host. Myself, I'm not a radio host, but I tried my best to write that character well, and I did my own research, and the best compliment I can get from that book is from a radio host like you. That's a big compliment. That means
I was amazed at how you got it really, the environment and how we go through like the communication with the sound engineer, how the studio is laid, getting the calls, organizing everything. It's just perfect. I think
that's when you write about something, you should not just write the story, and you have to be familiar with the character and the things you're doing and the job and the mechanics and the physics. That's important to make it more believable.
A lot of people talk about method acting, and very few people talk about method writing. So did you go to a studio actually, and did you sit with a radio host?
Yeah, I tried my best to visit a few studios, recording studios, get familiar with the mics and the sound mixers. I did my best, and I even tried to host a similar. I tried to simulate taking calls on Clubhouse. We did it with a few readers. But prior to that, I did it on an app called Ask.
Okay.
I did almost answered 11,000 questions
with
people.
Wow.
Yeah, so because you have to understand how people ask, why their mentality when asking, how to answer without insulting anyone, how to give your answers without being condescending. It's a lot of things, to build a character like that. And alhamdulillah, and it was
excellent. So you're saying you're a method writer. You try everything yourself.
Most of the time, yeah.
Most of the time, okay. I am Mr. Osama. First, a lot of people asked, not a lot of people, a couple of people asked me, what's the right pronunciation of your name? Osamah Al Muslim, Osamah Al Muslim, Osamah Al, how do you?
Al Muslim, with a sukoon.
Al Muslim?
Al Muslim, yeah.
Al Muslim.
Not with dhamma, Muslim, no, Muslim, as miss you, Muslim.
All right, Mr. Osamah Al Muslim. When we believe that writing a character, building a character, and we're still with Majid. His name is Majid, right?
Yes.
This is what happened with me. Before going to Al Arja, we're talking. The person. The person who writes is different than the person who lives, right? The writer has two characters somehow. Would you agree or not?
Yes, of course. Sometimes we can write our opposites. It doesn't mean always that the character we write, we are 100% that character.
Yes.
That's why sometimes people judge me about some characters that I write, that's me.
Yeah.
It's impossible, because when you write 30, 50 characters, some evil, some good, some psychopath, the writer cannot be all of them, but he may, install some of his own beliefs through those characters. Spotting me in those characters, I think, is not that easy. Of course, I write about things I believe, but not necessarily all what I write are my own beliefs or practices. For example, in the TV host show, when somebody called and he was bragging about torturing animals. I don't torture animals.
Yeah.
I'm actually an animal lover.
Yeah.
So not always like that, but sure, you have to at least understand the character well understanding it doesn't mean you have to be it.
Yes, true, and I'm amazed at there is the difference between you and your characters are very vast. Your characters are cynical, somewhat aggressive. They have a very dark sense of humor, you know. And this is very much not you. I mean, you're a very. It's amazing how a very diplomatic person who can set his boundaries very well can write about characters that are impulsive somehow, cynical to that much. How much of cynicism is there in Osamah Al Muslim? In his that he puts in, that he like let go of it in his characters.
Well, I'm not that pure, but that's left to be discovered, of course. I'm not going to say what... Sometimes we see things in ourselves that are good. People see it that's not that good. So, of course, nobody's 100% pure. Nobody's 100% evil. It's a matter of percentage and perspective. But the key here is to distinguish between what do you believe and what do you practice. We can all have bad, evil ideas. But when you pursue them in action, that's a different situation.
True. I want to ask you, you have, you give a lot of remedies and advices, straightforward ones. Like this.
In my book?
Yes.
Yeah. What?
I mean, are they true? If, for example, the person...
I cannot comment, of course, about that. Like, let's treat all of my body of work as fiction. Not to be...
If someone tried this at home...
I don't know, maybe.
This kind of remedies that you give and advices and solutions that you give through your characters, we saw that even with Al-Arja, when she advised like how to keep your youth is like by eating a baby or very unripe vegetables or fruits or it means...
Okay, I'll answer that particular question so that we can generalize on all.
Okay.
For example, that piece of information is true in the terms of it is in history. It has been practiced by different cultures.
Yeah. Pizzagate.
Even until today, you know, you can find some cultures. On top of my head, in the Philippines, they eat, half grown eggs, yolks when they are, before they hatch. So these practices do exist. The beliefs that they provide some kind of health benefits, especially in the cosmetics section, is there. It has been there for thousands of years. The question is it true or not? I cannot answer that because we live in an age that you have to prove that scientifically. I cannot prove anything scientifically, even if I wanted. Maybe it's proven. Maybe there are research about that. But they do exist in terms of history.
Yeah. So it means that you do a lot of readings through before you write, and you said when you please go ahead. Please.
Yeah, and that's part of the believability that I have in my novels. True, I have some parts fiction, but they are based upon research. You cannot just have an idea and write it down, whatever it was. It has to have some kind of basis, and you elaborate on that basis. That makes your text more solid and more believable, especially when people, from different backgrounds, see, I heard that before, I read that before. Especially in Basadin Arabistan, a lot of people told me that, my grandmother or my grandfather told me about that information before. I heard it before, because it does exist, But I write it in my own world. I implement it, if I may say, in my story.
Yeah, speaking of implementing, you mentioned before that all your friends, when you were young and still at a very young age, were much older than you.
Yeah, most of them.
Yeah, and this
but
somehow made you exposed to what people are asking. What background of readings do you have when you were?
well,
Yeah.
that's a big question, but I know, actually, I didn't like reading, starting from a young age. I was a TV lover, but I stumbled upon my father's library and my grandfather's library, and I was hooked. I started reading everything. And I do mean everything, yeah. Well, I cannot say titles. Some of them even don't exist now. You cannot find them. But reading was a big part of my life. Reading everything. I'm not saying just books. Magazines, books, encyclopedias. I'm not a brainiac. I'm not a genius, but I liked reading. I found something in it. And I think my imagination took me further than just reading. I had some kind of a curiosity. And thankfully, the curiosity did not kill the cat.
Thankfully, the curiosity did not kill the cat.
My curiosity.
Yes,
didn't
thankfully,
kill
the curiosity did not kill the cat.
the cat. Yeah.
Do you want to elaborate on that?
It's the same. Sometimes curiosity.
No, I mean you're saying it's further than reading. It means you went through some experiences. Right?
My first book can explain that.
Yes. Speaking of your first book, Khof, a lot of people linked you to the character. You have mentioned that it's you cannot publish your memoir, but you can work on your memoir and then publish it, make it a work of fiction. How much of it is true?
A lot, but I cannot pinpoint what is true or not. Sometimes we elaborate things, sometimes we mask things, but in general, it's a semi-biography, if I may say.
Semi-biography. And is it somehow also people linked you and said there are a lot of similarities between Majid, the radio host, and Khof?
Yeah.
They are somehow linked?
Yes, and it was implied in
the this is what happened with me, right?
Yeah.
Because he called.
Look, people who read all my books will understand most of my hints and my, if we may call them Easter eggs in my books. If you read 3 books, you are behind. If you read 5, 6, 7, I have now, I think I've reached 29 installments. So if you read them all, you will have a clearer picture. It's like pieces of puzzle. I don't haphazardly publish. Each book has its own timing because I already have finished books, but it's not the time to publish them because some books have to come before others.
Okay.
So it's a puzzle. I cannot deny that. And I enjoy people who discover some or solve some riddles that I put between the lines. I enjoy that. And I am very impressed. I am very impressed by a lot of readers who contact me and say, this is what you mean here. You mentioned this 5 years ago, and now you are explaining it. I enjoy that.
Amazing. And who is Jawahir? Because everybody's asking.
No comment.
No comment.
No comment.
Okay. So the user on Twitter is she's a different person? This is not...
Yeah, I'm not going to comment on that.
Okay. Moving on to Al-Arja, I cannot help but to link it, the character, to link it to Ghalia al-Baqmiya somehow. They have the same line of the woman who's fighting against the invasion of her country, and she's very proud of her Arab heritage.
Yeah.
Is it based...
Al-Arja is the 4th installment of Batratin Arabistan.
Yes.
The whole series is a message that... some people think it's a feminist book or a feminist act. Some people think it's an anti-woman book. It's not either of that. It's just trying to explain that what we have today is not something new. It has been all throughout history, either by it's not to the degree of oppression, you know. Women at those ages were queens, were merchants. They had stature. I'm trying to deliver a message that a person can decide what he can be and what stature he can have, despite his sex or race. Choosing women as my heroines in the book series was not coincidental, of course. It was intentional because, again, we don't have much women or female heroes. And that's something that actually, honestly bothers me.
Especially in this genre.
Yeah. So it's always the man who's the hero. The woman is always the damsel in distress. It turned to a cliche now. It became something boring, if I may say. At the same thing, also the evil characters always the one who loses the fight. No, that's not true. That's not life. Evil can prevail. True,
very true. Why did you? I mean, she was physically impaired yet very powerful. Yeah. But why did you choose to make her? I mean, there was no one in her life. What?
Yeah. Lame foot. They call losing her foot she became lame.
But why was she a lonely woman?
Well, the sixth book will explain that she wasn't. She had.
Okay, alhamdulillah.
Yeah, but you know, sometimes relationships in those ages were different from now. You know, sometimes we want to know more about our characters. We want to know if they had love in their life, if they were ever married. There's a dialogue I've written in this book. I'm trying not to spoil it for the readers, but she will have a long conversation about, did she miss out not having kids? Or did she miss out by pursuing what she pursued, sacrificing her social life, not having a husband or kids? And that's a lengthy chapter in the new book, because I know this is on the minds of a lot of readers, and hopefully what she will say will be, reasonable.
Yeah, I believe it was reasonable if we're talking about referring to the conversation she had with the two girls, right?
No, she will have a new conversation. She will continue that.
Okay.
And she will elaborate on it more, and she will have it with an older woman, not with her girl.
You're still a professor at the university?
No, I'm not a professor. I'm just a lecturer at Technical College at Al-Hasa, but now I'm working part-time in another department. I move on, I don't stay.
So you still have so you still have a different, like a stable job other than writing?
Yeah.
Do you believe you can, with all the success that you've made, that you can maintain a life or sustain yourself without having a job, being a full-time writer?
I think I will write more. I will. My work will be much more richer in terms of installments, not in quality. I always, I will never publish anything unless I'm 100% sure this is perfect, at least in my eyes. That's why some dates are delayed. I don't rush to anything, and that's quality control is very important to me. It's not about how many books I can publish. It's about lifting the bar for my own self. I try not to repeat myself, as much as possible. That's why I dabble in a lot of subjects. Not always about paranormal. Maybe in general it's paranormal, but I try to diverse in things that I like, of course.
So you won't leave your job. You won't be a full-time writer until now.
If the option is available, of course that would be convenient for me. But for the meantime, it's not an option.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because writing is not a stable job in the Middle East.
No. I don't treat writing as a means of income, actually. Even if it has some income, but I'm trying not to make it as a job, because once that happens, it may become a burden. The sense of I can walk away anytime gives me a good attitude towards my writing. Make it fun more than a job. If your life or your living depended on writing, it won't be fun anymore, and that will show in my writing. So no, I will never treat writing as a job, because that's I think anti-creativity.
Yeah. How do you keep track of like the many characters that you have in series, the one you have them in series and the one like this is the one? How do you keep track of all of these characters?
I don't have to. They are in my head. I live them. I can see them all the time. And I don't write everything I have. You see, there's a difference between writing and creating, you know? I don't want to say you are playing God here, but you can kill anyone, you can revive anyone, you can give them, you can take from them. You create your own world. So once you do that, once you are very immersed in writing to that degree, it's not that hard to keep up with them.
Okay, but everybody's amazed, and I myself, like, how, mashallah, it's 19 books?
No, it's almost now, I think, 28, 29.
How?
Yeah,
How?
You need to update your your count, yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't, I stopped at 70.
No, 70, that was
19, sorry, yeah. Wow, and how do you what is your writing ritual? Like, how many hours do you start your day by writing, or do you write by shifts, or how do you do it?
For me, it's a 24-hour job. It doesn't mean writing I have to stay in front of a laptop or a desk to write.
Okay.
If I have an idea, I can open my phone and write in my notes.
Yeah.
If I was driving, I got an idea, or I had some kind of, something to write, I can pull over, stay in my car for half an hour or even an hour writing. It comes to me. I always advise writers, new writers especially, don't delay any idea that comes to you, because it will never come back. You will not remember it. Writing is a 24-hour job. It's a full-time job in terms of keeping up. You don't have to write a full text, but writing and writing down, noting your ideas is important. When you sit down to, write actual text and build, it depends. Of course, daily. I have to write daily. Minimum 2 to 3 hours. Maximum can go longer than that.
And in 2 to 3 hours, how many pages do you write?
Also depends. I don't force myself. I'm not pacing. I'm not racing. I can take 1 hour and one page. I can do 50 in 1 hour. It depends on how the flow is going. It depends. Sometimes I jump ship from one novel to another. Sometimes I remember one of my novels, I reached the final chapter and I stopped for 2 years. I could not. It's not that I could not finish it. I was feeling another.
There was a
story.
calling to another project.
Yeah. So I stopped it. I wrote 2 other books, then I came back to it.
Okay.
So, actually, Ad-Dawar al-Khams was written outside. I started writing it with hope.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, I only published it 2 years ago. So some books or some stories need time to, write. Yeah.
You gave me a very interesting piece of advice to actually finish my book. You told me, Ghada, cut the sugar.
Yeah, fasting while writing. That's one of my, if you may call them rituals.
You told me to practice intermittent fasting and to cut the sugar completely. And I
never write on a full stomach.
Yeah, and amazingly, this advice actually worked. Although,
I'd like to hear that,
yeah, thank you very much for this advice. Actually, it's amazing how it's like how we eat and how it affects our concentration.
Yeah. I believe, or I noticed throughout my writing that when I eat, when I have something when your insulin is raised, let's speak scientifically, when your insulin is raised, that affects your cognitive
behavior.
Yeah. So writing on an empty stomach, of course you can drink water, you can drink sugarless coffee, but when you write on an empty stomach, I noticed that you can achieve more. Your senses are sharper, and that's for me. I don't know if it's gonna work for everyone, but I write better when I'm fasting.
And it actually works. It actually works. Actually, if anybody's listening to us and wants to write a book, this advice I followed by Mr. Osamah Al Muslim, and it worked. Mr. Osamah, as we reach the end of our interview, and the hour passed with you like 5 minutes, mashallah.
Thanks.
I want to choose one character that's very close to you. There's something, you have this soft spot in your heart for her. A female character.
That question I always get. Since day one I wrote or published, that question always arises. I always have the same answer, that all of my characters, good, bad, evil, they are like my children. You cannot pick a child and say he's my favorite. But for you, I will this time.
Thank
you. Because it's not my favorite, or it's not the favorite. It's close to me. That this character has, a lot of. When I write it, it's her dialogues. I'm closer to her than any other, which is Daja from. in Arabistan.
Amazing.
And Nafija comes second close.
And?
Nafija comes, Darja comes in second.
All right. Amazing. Yeah. Amazing. Mr. Osamah, this interview has been very, very inspiring. I thank you for your time. I thank you for the exclusive. The book launch will be at Riyadh, March 12 at 8 p.m. Where?
Rubin Plaza, Jarir branch.
All of your fans, I'm sure, will be waiting for you, and I thank you for this amazing interview. And we're waiting for more and more books from you.
Thank you. And I would like to say, finally, a message to all my readers. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for reading. Thank you for all the compliments that I receive daily. I love you all. I wouldn't have been here without you. It's not only me. It's all of us. And we will continue. Inshallah,
and we're counting on you. Thank you very much, Mr. Osamah. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and we're looking forward to more interviews in the future, inshallah.
Inshallah. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you. Bye. Thank you everyone for People in Power. This was Osamah Al Muslim with us on People in Power. This was Ghada Aboud. Please call me G, and director Abdullah Al-Qaid.
saw the fire in your eyes. I saw the fire when I look into your eyes. You tell me things you wanna try. I know temptation is the devil in disguise. You risk it all to feel alive. Yeah. You're offering yourself to me like sacrifice. You said you do this all the time. Tell me you love me if I bring you to the light. It's like a dream, what she feels with me. She loves to be on the edge. Her fantasy is okay with me. Then suddenly, baby says, take my breath away and make it last forever, babe. Do it now or never, babe. Take my breath away. Nobody does it better, babe. Bring me closer, want me to hold on to you tight. You brought me closer, feel the heat between your